All right, hello everyone. Thank you for joining. We today will be discussing our student loan situation. This specifically is genuinely catered towards our early graduates or graduating class. However, if you are not of that party, you can 100% benefit from this because there will be a couple of updates in this that will be beneficial, and it'll just tell you where the entire student loan situation is at the moment. So let me start off by introducing myself. My name is Yamina. I am the program manager and um, counselor at United Way of Long Island for the Student Assistance Program. And we are going to go ahead and discuss the agenda. So I'm going to introduce you to United Way of Long Island, and we'll discuss some of the student loan basics, strategies that are used to tackle student debt, and address the legal challenges that are kind of in court at the moment, and just kind of how the administration affects some of these changes in student loans or just the DOE in general. We'll discuss repayment options, explore forgiveness, cancellation and discharge options. Deferment for rents and consolidations will also be discussed, and then I'll provide you guys with some additional resources and links. This PowerPoint will be provided to you by the end of today, so you guys can have this in your, arsenal. So, about Long Island. Okay, about United Way of Long Island. We are a nonprofit institution that is focused on advancing the common good. We try our best to create better opportunities, and we do this by focusing on three building blocks, which is specifically health, education, and financial stability. We have a couple of active programs, and if you have any general inquiries, you can definitely contact us. That's our phone number, and I can drop my email in the chat at the end of this, so you guys can ask me any questions or concerns you have. So some of the active programs that we have at the moment are Power Up and Vets Build. They fall into the same category. They prepare individuals for careers in the construction and energy trade industry. We specifically, have a program Vets Build for veterans who also are coming back and kind of, helping them adjust and assimilate into society in that way. We have Single Care, which provides discounts on prescription meds for those who need it. And we have older adult home modifications for seniors who are 62 and older. So this is pretty much just minor home modifications. So for example, if you need to get a ramp on the stairs or just any minor home modifications that older seniors might need, we can assist with that. And lastly, we have 211, which is the 24/7 helpline, and it is free to access for resources, and services, which can be housing, employment, and healthcare. So just anything along those lines, you can access resources for by dialing 211. Okay, so moving on to our actual topic, let's discuss student loans and just the basics of what you see or kind of walk into when you take out loans. There's a couple of type of federal loans. There's the direct unsubsidized and direct subsidized loans. So for undergrads, the current rate is 6.53%. The interest on subsidized loans is specifically covered by the government, and for the unsubsidized loans, the borrower is generally responsible for the interest that accrues. So for instance, when you're in school, subsidized loans are not accruing interest, but unsubsidized loans are accruing interest. For undergrad loans, specifically for direct sub and unsub, though there are borrowing limits. So for instance, it depends on your family size, depends on your family income. It kind of just, you have to meet certain criteria for you to fulfill, I guess, or borrow up to a certain amount. For direct unsubsidized loans for graduate students, the current interest rate is 8.8. Again, the same borrowing limits apply for that. Then there's the direct plus loans for graduate students and professional students. The current interest rate on that is 9.08%. They may borrow up to the cost of attendance. So for instance, if you are pursuing your degree and your degree by the end of it is going to cost, let's just say $60,000, you can borrow up to $60,000 to make sure you complete your master's or just any graduate degree you're pursuing. There's also direct plus loans for parents who can borrow for their dependent undergrad students. The current interest rate for that is the same as the direct plus loans for graduate students. They also may borrow up to the cost of attendance. For this specific loan, however, they require credit checks and sometimes an endorser. So one of the differences between the plus loans for students and plus loans for graduates is that plus loans for graduates are eligible for the same repayments and forgiveness programs as direct, sub, and unsub loans. For parent plus loans, however, there's more limited options, but you can open those options up to meet the same criteria for plus loans if you consolidate. If you want to consolidate your parent plus loans, you should absolutely seek help. I am the help. So I will be there if you have any questions, if you have any questions about direct consolidation or just any student loan questions in general. And like I said, direct consolidation loans will pretty much just combine multiple federal loans together. Again, this has to be done very carefully. Okay, so one question that might be itching in the back of your head, because I've gotten this question a lot, is can federal loans interest rates come up and down? Yes, they do. Sorry, they don't go up and down. They're fixed. You can't exactly change them unless you combine all your loans and that kind of comes up with a sum of the weighted average, then the loan rate of the interest rate will change. However, it's not guaranteed it's going to go down or it's going to go up. It just depends on what the weighted average of your interest rate comes out to be for those specific loans. Then we have private loans. Private loans are, again, offered by banks, credit unions, and private institutions. They do not have payments based on income or forgiveness plans. These are hard loans, as in they're like mortgages that you take out. But honestly, there's very little wiggle room when it comes to this. You do need credit checks to take out those loans, and most students will need to obtain a cosigner. So, for instance, if a student defaults in their payments and they are not making those payments, the cosigner is 100% liable to make sure that they are kind of making those payments. So it falls onto your cosigner to make sure that the loan stays in good standing. Again, interest rates for private loans are determined by what the rates are in the prevailing market conditions and credit worthiness of the applicant. These should be the absolute last resort you should take when looking to take out student loans. Private loans should be the absolute last resort. It's best to avoid them altogether. So moving forward to our next topic, which is tackling strategies for student loans. We have specifically 3 strategies that we use to tackle student loans. So there is the pay your debt in full as quickly as possible. So this is specifically for people who have low balances or relatively high income to their balance. You can make lump sum payments to make sure that you guys can get rid of it as soon as possible or pay more than the required payment, regardless of what repayment plan you're in. Then there's the pay minimum required and pursue forgiveness if eligible. So this specific option is for borrowers with high balances or low to moderate incomes that might have, their compared to their debt. For this specific option, it's very much encouraged that you just make the minimum payments, which is most likely going to be under an IDR plan, since you are pursuing forgiveness. The idea of this entire strategy is for you to just make the minimum payments, not for you to see the balance in your loan amount going down. This is just to hold out until you acquire that forgiveness and have that entire balance discharged. And then there's the most morbid option of all, which is pay the minimum until death do you part. So for this specific option, paying off the loan and pursuing forgiveness is not feasible, and you can just make minimum payments until, well, you pass away. The strategy is usually chosen by older borrowers who can't realistically pay off their loans or achieve that forgiveness because student loans are dischargeable upon death. Now that we're over that morbidness, let's move on to something less morbid, which is legal challenges that at the moment we are being faced with. So some of the core challenges that are taking place are the SAVE plan and the related regulations are in court because Kansas and Missouri filed those lawsuits, and because of that, federal appeals court has blocked the DOE from enrolling borrowers into SAVE or offering them forgiveness through the plan until these legal issues are resolved. For the borrowers who are already enrolled in the SAVE plan at the moment, are placed in a non-interest bearing forbearance. So they're not accruing interest while they're in this forbearance, while this legal issue is being resolved. However, the time spent in this forbearance does not qualify for forgiveness. So if you are in, if you are kind of, I'm sorry, I can't talk today. If you are pursuing forgiveness and you are in the SAVE plan, I would recommend kind of making sure that you step out of that because there's a huge chance the SAVE plan is not going to survive. It's assault in court. So 100% would say that you should apply to another IDR so you can make sure you stay on the track of forgiveness. And that would be easily accessible now because the online IDR applications and loan consolidation applications are good to go. You can absolutely put in those applications. However, there might be some issues with the processing because of this entire challenge of, say, being in court and all the legal litigations happening. So there is expected longer delays. Because of the current climate, the political climate, which again, counting the litigation and the administrative changes that have introduce a lot of uncertainty into the student loan world, we are recommending that you download and save all of your important documents from your servicer and FSA accounts to ensure that all of your information is not lost and remains accurate. So make sure you download your loan details from your servicer accounts, your IDR plan notifications from your servicer accounts as well, and your PSLF tracker information if you're pursuing PSLF from your federal aid account. And make sure you keep it up to date. So for instance, when your PSLF tracker updates, take a screenshot of that, make sure you store it away, and just make sure it's like the most recent screenshot you have on the FSA website. Again, err on the side of caution. Make sure that you are taking precautions to have all of your information stored. Again, before doing anything complicated like a consolidation, please seek advice. I am the advice giver. And make sure that you are staying informed on all the legal developments, which you can do through FSA. You can do that through the DOE, and you can subscribe to the EdCap newsletter as well. So moving on to even more less morbid options. There is the repayment options that we can discuss at length. Before doing that, let me break down the timeline of what you're going to see when you graduate and while you're in school. So after you have taken out your loans and you're in school, your loan status is in school status. At this point, interest accrues only on the unsubsidized loans. There's no payment required. Then there's when you graduate or drop below halftime or withdraw from school, you go into something called a grace period. This grace period lasts 6 months. Interest starts to accrue on the unsubsidized loans, but no payment at this point is required. And then we have the end of your grace period, which is after 6 months, like I said. And this is when your loan goes into repayment status. This is when you choose a repayment plan and make sure that you are making the payments that are required. So if you don't go on and choose a repayment plan, that might be an IDR plan, who knows, your repayment plan defaults to a traditional repayment plan. It most likely will go into the 10-year fixed standard plan. Then, like I said, there's traditional plans that it will default to. So traditional plans are obviously different from the IDR plans. Traditional plans are based on loan balance, interest rate, and predetermined payback, which ranges from 10 years to 30 years. They don't offer forgiveness, and it's best suited for borrowers with income that is high relative to their debt. Some of these plans are the standard plan, the extended, and the graduated. Again, they have different determined payback periods, which you have to meet certain criteria for to determine which one you are eligible for. So the graphs you see here, there's the 10-year standard plans, which is going to be the 10-year fixed and the 10-year graduated. For that, you see that the 10-year fixed plan has a stagnant payment of $518 throughout those 10 years, and you'll pay a complete of $62,183. Oh, and this is assuming you started off with a debt of $50,000 and the interest rate of 4.5%. For the total graduated plan over 10 years, you'll start off with a payment of $292, which you'll end off with a payment of $875 because the payment in a graduated plan increases every 2 years. And you'll end up paying a complete of $65,266. However, if you were in an extended standard plan, again, assuming that you have a debt of $50,000, you would pay over a period of 1 to 25 years. So in this specific plan, you'll start off with a payment of $278 under the fixed standard plan, and you'll pay a complete of $83,375. And under the graduated, you'll start off with a payment of $188, which is going to go up to $473, and you'll pay a total of $91,156. And again, this is assuming you started off with $50,000. For income-driven repayments, however, this is the most affordable alternative to traditional plans. The payments on this can be as low as $0. The payments are based on your income, family size, and tax filing status. So generally, it depends on the adjusted gross income on your last filed tax returns. If you filed taxes in the last 2 years, if you have not filed taxes or your income is lower at the time of the application, it's going to be based on your current income. But so if you guys have any questions, please do save them for, I think I'll let you know when you can ask the questions. But if your, for instance, income has decreased from the last time you filed taxes, then your IDR application or IDR repayment will be based on your current income, which you can provide through pay stubs or your offer letter or whatever it is that gives evidence that your income has decreased. You can use that to implement into the IDR application, which is what they'll base your IDR payment off of. Again, all IDR plans offer forgiveness if you make those payments for 10 to 15, 25 years. Forgiveness for less than 20 years depends on the outcome of the litigation, because SAVE had a option of achieving forgiveness in those 10 years. However, since SAVE is under litigation, that is uncertain. For IDR applications, you must recertify annually to remain in the plan. Some of the plan names that fall under IDR are SAVE, again, which is on hold, Payee, IBR, and ICR. This is kind of just a comparison, the pros and cons of traditional plans. One of the things I'll say about traditional plans is, again, like it's like paying for a mortgage. You don't really get any incentives to it. It's just, pay it off as quickly as you can, or pay it off, little by little over that 30-year period. But again, if you have loans out, you're eligible to be under an income-driven repayment plan, and you can 100% opt for an option of income-driven repayment forgiveness, which is at the end of 20 to 25 years, depending on what plan you're in. That specifically would be for individuals who have like relatively high debt. So for instance, if you have $75,000 to like $100,000 debt, you should opt for IDRF, which is income-driven repayment forgiveness, if you're not in a public service or a government job. We'll talk a little more about that, but that's kind of just like the breakdown of it. But again, there's pros and cons. Again, you should always opt for something that is legible for your situation. If you have $14,000 in debt and you make $100,000 a year, I would say you can just pay it off under a traditional plan. So these are the current IDR plans in a nutshell. So again, SAVE is on hold, so I'm not really going to go into that because we don't know what the outcome is going to be. It's most likely not going to survive legal challenges, however. So keep your hopes low. It's most likely not going to survive, so don't even think about SAVE at the moment. The options, however, that are available to you are, income-driven income-based repayment plan, so which is the IBR plan. This one is the older IBR plan. This is what we call the old IBR. This is for borrowers who had any loans disbursed prior to July 1st, 2014. So this is available to borrowers who have direct or FFELP loans. It calculates payments at a 15% of discretionary income. This specific plan offers forgiveness after 25 years, and this is the only plan available to FFELP borrowers. Other non-direct loans have to be consolidated to gain access to this, and there's an income test that applies to this. So before I move on to the new IBR, let me tell you what this income test is. So it's a little complicated, tiny bit complicated, but here's how it goes. So if you're enrolled, if you're not enrolled in any of these plans at the moment, and the calculated payment in the IDR plan exceeds what you pay in the standard 10-year fixed plan, you're not eligible for this IDR plan. If you're already enrolled and you hit the threshold when recertifying for this plan, then the standard year 10-year fixed payment becomes the cap for it. So for instance, if you're not in this plan, right, and you apply for this IBR plan, your income, your repayment has to be less than what it would be in a standard year fixed plan. If it's the same or it's above that, you won't qualify for it. But if you're already in this plan, you're already paying payments under the IBR, and your income changes and it hits the threshold that is the 10-year fixed plan, then you stay in it, but your payment won't exceed that after. So the income-based repayment plan for new borrowers, which we call the new borrowers, is the younger sibling of the older, more traumatized IBR. In this specific plan, you must have direct loans. It calculates your payment at 10% discretionary income. It offers forgiveness in 20 years. And the same income test applies to this. Okay. And this is for loans that are disbursed after or on July 1st, 2014. So if you have any loans prior to July 1st, 2014, your income based repayment would be the older version. If they're disbursed after July 1st, 2014, you'll be under the new income based repayment. And then we have the payee, which is a little tedious because for this specific plan, you shouldn't have any loans disbursed prior to October 1st, 2007, but you also have to have at least one loan that's disbursed after October 1st, 2011. It's a little tedious, but it's my job to look at that and let you know whether you're eligible for it. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. And for this specific plan, you have to have direct loans. The payments for this is calculated at 10% of discretionary income, offers 20 years for forgiveness, and the income test applies. And the other restriction that apply is that you have to have enrolled prior to July 1st, 2024. Okay, so we move on to the income contingent repayment, which is the ICR plan. Again, these plans have been reinstituted, so you can apply for these plans at the moment. For the income contingent repayment, this is available to borrowers with direct consolidation loans, and this is the only plan that Parent Plus borrowers can use after they consolidate their loans. The payments for this are calculated at the lesser of 20% discretionary income, or it's the payment of what your payment would be under a 12-year fixed plan, adjusted for income. This offers forgiveness after 25 years. There's no income test to this. And this one, okay. So there's the revised pay-as-you-earn, so REPAYE, which is the predecessor of the SAVE plan. It's not available to borrowers right now, but it might be reinstated after the SAVE litigation if SAVE doesn't survive. For this specific plan, payments are calculated at 10% discretionary income. They offer 20-year. They offer forgiveness after 20 years if the borrower graduated only with undergrad loans, but if you have undergrad loans combined with grad loans, then that forgiveness period extends to 25 years. Unfortunately for this plan, one of the downsides of this plan is that the spousal income has to be included whether you file taxes separately or joint. So regardless of how your taxes are filed, your spousal income will be included into this. This does not have a income test though, so I guess there's an upside. I guess you can say. So moving on, this is an expired, helpful, I guess you could say, period that could have helped with financial repercussions, but I do want to discuss this because it talks about default and how you go into default and just kind of the timeline that default includes. So for this specific on-ramp period, if you were eligible, if you were in this time period at the moment, you didn't have any late fees that would incur. If you missed any payments, they didn't report that to credit agencies, and you weren't at a risk of default. This option ended on September 30th, however. So everybody who was under this, literally, their accounts were bought current on October 31st. So starting November 1st, they went into repayment. If you didn't know that your loans are in repayment right now, after 30 days of non-payment, late fees will be incurred on your payment. After 90 days of non-payment, they're going to report delinquencies to the credit agencies, and after 270 days of non-payment, which is 9 months, your loans will be at a risk of default. So if you can find an affordable plan right now, you should enroll and start making payments so it doesn't have a negative effect on your credit score and just your credit in general. Okay. So, exploring forgiveness, cancellation, and discharge options. This is also something that is very helpful to, student loan borrowers. There's a couple types of forgivenesses and discharge options that you can opt for, depending on your situation. So the income-driven repayment forgiveness that I was talking about is under an IDR plan. It ranges from 10 to 25 years. Again, the 10 years is in question right now, but regularly is 20 to 25 years, if you're not counting the 10 years. There are no employment requirements. You just must be enrolled in an IDR plan. If you make those minimum payments for 20 to 25 years, your loans will be discharged at the end of that period, depending on what repayment plan you're in. So you know how we discussed how certain repayment plans have certain forgiveness periods. So PayE has a 20-year, old IBR has 25 years. So it just depends on what IDR plan you're in for you to see what your IDRF would be, like what the timeline would be. There's also the public service loan forgiveness, which has your remaining balance forgiven after 10 years of making minimum payments under IDR. But for this one specifically, you have to be working full-time or an average 30 hours per week for a nonprofit or a government employer. And you have to have direct loans. There's also the borrower defense to repayment, which honestly is very complicated. It's one of the things that takes a lot of time. This application alone is 15 to 20 pages, but this discharges remaining loans for borrowers who were defrauded by their higher up. So they were defrauded by the institution they took out loans for, and you must have attended the school, and they would have had to had some sort of misconduct on file for you to have these loans discharged. Again, it's very tedious. It's very to the T. It's difficult to pursue. It's also very difficult to kind of determine as well. And this would take a long time. Then there's a total and permanent disability discharge, which allows borrowers to discharge their remaining loan balance if they're disabled. So if your disability prevents you from working full time and you can't work enough to earn support for yourself, you can opt for this option to have your loans completely discharged. There's also the NYS Get Your Loan Forgiveness program. Sorry, excuse me. So for this specific ones, individuals who earned an undergrad degree from a college in NY and are currently living in New York State, it provides up to like 24 months of loan payments for eligible participants. So again, I'll forward this link to you guys so you can look more into it at the end of this webinar, and you can let me know if this is something you're interested in, and we can definitely get you up to that. Then there's the TLF, which provides forgiveness about gives about $17,500 in federal loan forgiveness to teachers who meet the criteria. So one of the criteria is that you have to be teaching in a designated subject area. So I think for this specific one, it's science and math that you need to be teaching under, or you have to fall into the shortage area, which pretty much means that you're not teaching under the designated subject area, but have a consecutive 5 years of teaching under your belt. For this specific TLF, though, you can't be pursuing this in public service at the same exact time. If you have a higher loan balance, so for instance, if you have, let's just say, you have $20,000 in loans, and you're teaching, you meet that subject area, requirement, you would be eligible for the 17,500, which is where I would say, yeah, you know what, TLF is probably a better option for you than opting for PSLF. However, if you have loans that range around $75,000 to $100,000 or exceed that, even a little less lower, it's like $60,000, I would say you would benefit more from pursuing PSLF than you would from TLF. Then there's the school closure discharge. This is granted to borrowers whose schools closed while they were enrolled or shortly after they withdrew and didn't complete their teach outs or complete their programs elsewhere, that they would be eligible for this discharge as well. Then there's bankruptcy. Bankruptcy should be the absolute last resort because this not only affects your loan situation, it also affects your financial situation in general. It's not impossible to file, but it's difficult to discharge federal loans in bankruptcy. So it's unless you meet the undue hardship test, you should err on the side of caution, I guess you could say. But if this is something you want to opt for, then you need to seek advice of an experienced bankruptcy attorney who specializes in student loan discharges. And then there is the morbid option again, which is discharge upon death, because obviously you don't have to worry about loans after you have passed. Okay, so I just want to kind of show you forgiveness programs in action. So our participant for today, who probably does not exist most likely, is Lorraine. She works with the City of New York and is eligible for public service loan forgiveness. She's eligible for public service loans forgiveness because she works for a federal / government / state. Okay, government, yeah. She works for the government. So she is eligible for PSLF. She's a single mother with one child. All of her loans were dispersed after July 1st, 2014. She earns about $60,000 per year, but her loan balance is $75,000, and the interest rate on that loan balance is 6.20%. These are the payment plans that she's eligible for. So her payment under IBR for new borrowers, since her loans were discharged after July 1st, 2014, would be $254 to $415. Again, depends on her family size as well. The payback period for this is 10 years. Over those 10 years, she would pay around $40,000, and her loan balance would be forgiven would be $81,947. If she were to opt for the 10-year standard plan, she would be paying a stagnant of $840 over those 10 years, and she'd pay $100,000, almost $101,000, with no forgiveness balance. And the same thing for 30 years, except this time she'd be paying $165 and would have nothing forgiven. So in this case, she would opt for IBR, which pretty much means that she'll be pursuing public service loan forgiveness and have her balance forgiven. Then there's the deferment, forbearance, and consolidation, which we can run through as well. So forbearance and deferment pretty much provide short-term relief for you. There's a limit to how many forbearances and deferments you can take over the life of a loan. Time that's spent in forbearance and deferment usually don't count towards forbearance forgiveness. Excuse me. Except in certain cases where they're eligible for it. So for instance, under IDR account adjustment, they would have been eligible, but IDR account adjustment expired, I think last year's June 30th, I believe. So for this one, yeah. So forbearance and deferment should only be used when you have no other option. So if you just know you can't make those payments, then you opt for this option, but this usually increases your loan balance and extends the amount of time it takes you to get rid of the debt because it keeps interest accruing on while you're not making those payments. This pretty much is an option for you to opt for to make sure your loan stays in a good standing, as in you don't go into default or delinquencies. But at the same time, you're not making those payments, but interest is accruing. It's more of a bittersweet option. You only opt for it when you have no other option other than kind of, going into that non-payment period. And then we have consolidation, which is federal loan consolidation. It's different from consolidation in the private debt world, I guess. I wouldn't be able to tell you about the private debt world, since federal loan consolidation is my cup of tea. But federal loan consolidation can make your debt easier to manage by reducing the number of loans you have and possibly the number of servicers you have. So there might be loans that you have with two servicers that you can consolidate and send over to one servicer, so it becomes easier to manage. It also gives you access to cheaper payment plans and forgiveness programs. So, for instance, as an example, if you have Parent Plus loans and you won't have any other options under IDR except income contingent repayment plan, unless you consolidate your Parent Plus loans, which opens them up to all, like pretty much all of the options that are available to IDR plan choosers. You would have the cheapest plan accessible to you, and you would have forgiveness options accessible to you. So consolidation can genuinely make it easier for you to pay off your student loans. Again, it's not always necessary. If your loans are consolidated, but you're in a situation where you're under an IDR and you can pursue PSLF, you're completely fine. But if you want to consolidate for ease, then it's the best time to do it when you graduate from school, after you have gone into the payment period. By consolidating, you can't exactly lower your interest rate in the federal system. You can consolidate federal loans into private loans, but you can't reverse it. I wouldn't recommend it either, because then you would lose the protections of benefits of cheaper repayments and forgiveness options if you consolidate private loans with federal loans. It just wouldn't be
Feasible.
exactly feasible. But before you consolidate, please do seek advice, because consolidation again is very tedious. It's not easy. You could easily consolidate some loans and completely lose all the benefits that you could have if you had chosen a different route of consolidation. So please seek advice before you consolidate your loans. All right, folks, we're at the end of the presentation. I'm really sorry if I speak really fast. I usually do that when I'm really nervous. But if you guys need any assistance with this and you have any questions about about what we talked about, and you want to book a session with me, there's the QR code. You can 100% scan and book that session with me. If you have any questions that you want to ask over the phone, you can call me or text me. That's a textable number, so you can definitely text me. And you can email me if email is more of your forte. And you can go on our website to this SBAP page to submit a pre-application for the student assistance, and I can contact you and we can book a session whenever you'd like.
Well, I do have questions, so I guess I'll be calling you.
Yeah, of course. So if you guys have any questions, I open up the floor to you guys now.
Oh, I can ask you now. Okay. You can hear me?
Yep, I can hear
Okay.
you.
I want to know if which one of these programs would I be eligible for? Mine is a private loan. I went to a tractor trailer school to get my Class A license, and we had to take out a loan in order to go to the school. But the catch-22 was, once you graduated, which I did, the company that you work for, they were supposed to pay back some of the loan while you're in school.
Okay.
And you had to sign paperwork, right? My thing was, I never was. If they say if you leave the company, then you're responsible for the loan.
Yes.
I never was. That was not my idea. I was gonna stay in that company till I retired. Never seen a clause in there. If we fire you, you responsible for that loan. That's what happened to me at one of the companies. I got fired from the company. So now it was like 10,000. I got it down to 7,000. So I'm paying it back. But I can't, I'm not paying what they want me to pay. I'm only paying when I give them money, they want 200 and I don't know, 50 something. I'm only able because I'm not working right now, but I will be going back to work because I'm under doctor's care with another company. But they want 250 something dollars. I'm only able to give them maybe 125. And I've been paying them for a long time. They're telling me I'm only paying on the entrance and not the principal. So it's like going down real slow. So which one of these programs will I be eligible for?
So, okay. So again, I think I missed this part. Did you say you have private loans?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the thing with private loans. Private loans have very little wiggle area. They have very little wiggle room. Private loans usually don't have the same um, benefits you would get under federal loans. So before taking out loans, I would have advised you that federal loans would have been a better option for you because you would have gotten access to the benefits and forgiveness options that the Fed provides. So when it comes to private loans, I can definitely refer you over to a attorney that deals with private loans. But when it comes to private loans and just accessing those benefits that federal loans have, you wouldn't be able to access those benefits,
Wow.
unfortunately.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
But I'll definitely, I can 100% refer you to um an individual who deals with private loans. I'm just gonna take down your name so I remember. Okay. But yeah, usually private loans don't have the same facilities that federal loans do. I'm sorry.
And I believe at the time they didn't allow us or they didn't accept out private loan. I mean, going to other entities to get loans. You have to do it through the school.
Did you, when you applied for this loan, was it for the specific company, like for a specific program that they were?
Well, or everybody that went to the school is had to do the same thing. You know, if you wanted to get training, then you had to go to that school. That's the school that was offering the training, but you had to take out a loan. But you couldn't take the loan out outside of the school because they had like what was it? They send you straight to a job once you graduated.
Mhm. Okay, so that makes I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. It's yeah, so if you opted for private loans, it leaves you with very little wiggle room to kind of make sure that you can opt for options that are forgiveness.
Even the what you call that one the what's the one you said, the one that you said you're really that's your last resort to go into when you can't pay, you have hardly no income. What do you call that one?
So I think you're talking about IDR plan payments that are you talking about IDR payments that opt for $0 repayments?
No, bankruptcy.
But okay, yeah, okay, so bankruptcy, there we go. Thank you for clarifying that for me. Bankruptcy is the okay, if you go for bankruptcy, it's going to put literally everything into question for you because you're not just going to be filing for bankruptcy for your student loans. You're filing for practical bankruptcy that's like your entire financial situation. As in your credit's going to get ruined. This is going to go on your credit report. It's going to be very difficult for you to um, kind of revive that because bankruptcy stays on your it stays on your report for a good I think 2 to 7 years. Um, so I would advise against bankruptcy. If this is an option you want to opt for, again, I can get you in contact with somebody who can help you with that. But I would very much so advise against it if you have a loan that you can pay back over a certain amount of years. Because you said you have about 10,000, you got it down to 7,000.
Yeah.
Yep. So when it comes to numbers that are, if you had told me you had over $60,000 worth of loans in private loans, then there's something I would have definitely recommended that maybe bankruptcy is an option you can look into. But with your loan balance, I think you can 100% pay it off without opting for bankruptcy.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
No problem. Anna,
Okay.
Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so my question is, I went to when doing school online was just started, like me, well, I wouldn't say just started, but it was something I guess new for me, like 10 years ago. I
Mhm.
went to a university to do a master, but I dropped out. I didn't continue, but they
Okay.
still charge me, and that has spiraled out of control with my, with my loans. It's about $20,000, and it keeps
Okay.
going up.
Yeah.
My question is, I work on a nonprofit organization, and I heard that that was something that, like, how would I find out if I get?
If you qualify.
Mhm.
Okay. So you've had these loans for about 10 years, I'm going to assume you said,
Yes.
and you've been working at this nonprofit for how long?
I would say 6 years, almost 7 years. Mhm.
Okay. So you can 100% opt for PSLF, which is public service loan forgiveness. Okay, so there is a couple of questions that I would need to ask you that are very personal questions that stay within confidential. Okay, I can't speak.
Confidential.
That fall under confidentiality, and I would need the information from you. So would it be okay for me to contact you through
Yes.
phone number or email to make sure we can book a session so I can actually ask you everything I need to make sure that we can address your situation?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. So I have your email, I believe. So I'll email you, but short answer, I think you can 100% offer public service loan forgiveness.
Okay.
100%. That advice might change depending on what your answers are to certain questions of mine. But
Okay.
at the moment, with the information you've given me, you can offer PSLF.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions that you guys have that I can answer? All right. So guys, again, if you guys have any questions or concerns, please contact me. My phone number, I'm gonna just say from my mouth right now, just in case. 631-972-5534, 631-972-5534. I'll drop it into the chat. In case you guys have any questions or concerns, please do contact me. I am here to help you. We do not charge for our services. So if anybody's asking you for money, don't give them money. And if there's any situations that we might not be able to help you with, we can definitely refer you. There's no question about that. So I just dropped my contact information in the chat. If you guys have any questions, I am here. All right, everyone, have a good one. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll speak to you later.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.